Hello folks, and welcome back to this building of the Cirrus Moth, designed by David Bonington. In the last video I spent a bit of time and effort building up the fuel feed tank on the upper wing, because as it comes in the kit it wasn't representative of the model I'm thinking about making. It's now a very prominent feature. It's by no means finished. There's an access hatch, I believe, needs to go there. There's a vent and gauge back here, strapping to actually hold the tank on. This area that's white that you can see, which is corrugated, that's the tank, and this fairing in the front I believe, is simply to make it more aerodynamic. There are straps to go over, there are bolts to allow the wings to hinge, because the original aircraft had hinged wings. It was one of its selling points. That's now done, but to my eyes this wing still is lacking a little bit of a scale feel to it, and that's because, for practical reasons, it's been built light and strong. It has webbing every other pair of ribs to keep the weight down, but to provide the strength. It has shitting in the forward area. But if you look at any of the Moth series, they all have riblets, which are quite prominent when you look at the covering, especially if the light hits the covering from the side. So what I'm proposing to do is to put some dummy riblets between each pair of main ribs. Now, these aren't scale in terms of spacings, nor will these simulated riblets be in scale positions, because sometimes there are 2, sometimes there are 3, and so on. But it will, I hope, give a better feel to both the upper wing, and I'll obviously have to repeat it on the lower wing. And this is how I propose to do it. I'm going to strip using this 1/16 balsa, strips that I'm going to glue on to extend the ribs across the sheeted area. And there's a slight drop there, and I don't know why there is, but I'll build that rib up so that it runs straight through. And also in between each pair of ribs, I propose to glue on 2 of these riblets. And then I'll blend them away here, blend them away there, and when the wing's covered, I'm certain that you'll see them through, and that'll add to the fidelity and the scale feel of this model. So if I put that to one side, what I propose doing on this little video, it won't be as long as the last one, is to strip some wood, glue some on, see what it looks like. You don't have to see the whole process. I'll just start it off and you can see what it's going to look like, and then in a later video you'll see the job finished, because it will be, I think it'll take maybe 90 or 100 riblets to be cut out like this, and that doesn't make much of a video. So first thing to do, let's strip some balsa. I have a balsa stripper here. This one happens to be made by Master Air Screw. I've simply placed the blade and the stop to the width of one of the ribs, and I'm going to cut a strip off, see what it looks like, and then we'll take it from there. This is it's quite soft stock, but it's not totally soft. In between, let's see. So we run it down. I may have to do a couple of passes. It's always best to do that rather than press on hard with the first pass. So there we have a strip, and what I propose to do is to glue them on like that. So let's get this process started, as they say. Cut that end square. And let's see what length I need to make these. And then the next stage will be to, watch me toes with a knife, will be to chop up enough of these to complete the job. So I think that's the length I'm going for. See if I can retrieve the knife. I managed not to cut my toe that time. Once sent my son to hospital dropping a scalpel blade on his toe. The blade just stuck and he went very quiet and said, "I think you've stabbed his dad." The hazards of parenthood. I was also screamed at by my wife for giving my daughter a scalpel knife to cut out some pieces of bolts as she sat watching me. I think she was about 5. She never cut herself. I think we don't give kids credit sometimes. My wife didn't give me much credit, like, but never mind. I'll cut a couple more out. I'm not going to cut them all out. And another one. Okay, so that'll be the sort of bundle I'm going to have. Probably serves to, if not mark on fully, to get started. And in between, let's measure this. Now I need to, let's see, let's work it out. Just bear with me while I work this out. Okay, I've just done a little bit of maths in my head, and I think that I need to have these at 26mm intervals. So let's mark a couple off, see what it looks like. Does it look right? I'll use a small square. Don't have to roll them fully on, just to yeah, I think that's going to work. I'll take that one to 26. And then we'll see what that looks like when I add them on. So that's the position they're going to be. Let's zoom in a little bit and we'll start actually gluing some of these on. I've wet the upper surface of these little strips. Hopefully that'll allow a little bit of curvature, make it easier to bend round here. They're not extremely tough, so I should think they'll go on okay. So this is the idea. Of course, they will need to be sanded down to blend away somewhat. There's the first one down. Now, it's obviously a laborious task to do this, but the question I think one needs to ask when you're doing something like this is, can I live with it as it is? Am I happy with it? Or do I need to change it? And if you're undecided, I'd go with a change, because you'll never be content otherwise, in my view anyway. On the SE5 that I built, it was easier because, if anybody's unfamiliar, this particular project I picked up with the wings at least partly done. So I couldn't change a lot of things that I perhaps might have thought about. I might have done away with the sheeting and put real riblets in right from the beginning. I don't know. But with the SE5, I was able to make that decision early on in the construction that I wanted the riblets. I thought it was important. So I added them to the build, and I'm really happy I did. It makes the model look like a much finer scale affair than in reality it is. It's only a semi-scale sports model. It's not an extremely accurate representation of a SE5, but to the lay person and most characters you'll meet on the flying field, it's an SE5. But those additional riblets for minimal weight to the airframe make the model look far more scale-like and far better than it probably really is. And I think this will have a similar effect. So I'll put the next two on, and then we'll perhaps call the video to an end, because it's going to be a coffee moment for me. Put the radio on, tune into my favourite channel or a channel, and just chill out and carry on doing this. And I think you get the general gist of what it'll look like by what I've done up to now. They're going on nicely. I've got one spare which I can use to measure the others off. I think that length will be just right. It hasn't been totally rubbed down, this wing, yet, and obviously part of the rubbing down process will now be to feather these in. There we go. And I think you're starting to get a feel for what it'll look like. Now, I did say that for some reason, I managed to glue myself there. I did say that for some reason, these are just a smidgen too low, so I will add a piece onto the top here, and that'll be feathered out as well, because that'll make for a much better finish. That particular one there hasn't totally gone down the way I would like, so I'll put a bit of glue in without touching it, push it down. If there'd been any problems, I've got some Zappa which would help it out. There you go, that's what I'm going to do. I hope you can see. Obviously it'll be much more subtle than that when it's blended away. When the covering goes on, it'll look like I've put a lot more effort into the build than I actually have. So I hope you found that useful. It's not a very long video, but it's one I think that people might be able to use themselves if they want to add a little bit of scale realism to a model that is essentially a sports plane. Thanks for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up if you don't mind. It helps spread the word via the algorithms. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It costs nothing, and you get to see the rest of this journey. Thanks for dropping in now. Bye.